Welcome to this deep dive into the life of Nigel. Um, we have his personal memoir notes, and they're really raw and insightful. So insightful. His story is a blend of this like idyllic Tasmanian farm life and a strict religious upbringing, and then unexpected twists of fortune,
Mm.
and this like relentless drive for freedom that weaves through it all.
It's almost like a tapestry, isn't it? These contrasting threads all woven together to create this really complex and compelling picture of his life.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really interesting to me is this contrast between his rural childhood and the later, more turbulent chapters of his life. Like watching someone navigate those moments where like innocence meets experience
Mm.
and that sheltered world of childhood kind of collides with the harsh realities of the world.
Yeah. And I think that collision is often where we see a person's true character emerge. So how someone responds to those challenges and those moments of adversity really reveals who they are at their core.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start at the beginning with his childhood on that Tasmanian farm. And he describes it in such vivid detail, like the smells of leather and horsehair, the coldness of dawn, and the feeling of freshly tilled soil underfoot. I mean, you can almost feel yourself transported to that world.
It's almost like stepping back in time, isn't it? To a world where life was so deeply connected to the land and where, self-sufficiency wasn't just some trendy concept, but an actual way of life.
Yeah. And they really did live off the land. I mean, growing their own food, raising livestock. They even had water piped directly from a freshwater creek into their home. And it speaks to a level of resourcefulness and resilience that's, well, it's almost hard to imagine in our modern world.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is that this resourcefulness, it wasn't just a matter of choice. It seems to have been born out of necessity
Yeah.
because he talks about his family relying on neighbors during tough seasons and his grandmother making clothes from scrap material. And, that speaks to this really amazing sense of community interdependence that, well, maybe we've lost touch with today.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of his grandmother, her home seems to hold a special significance in his memories. It's this sanctuary built by his grandfather. And he says, with big square sandstone blocks.
And that same ingenuity is evident in the fact that his grandfather also built this small timber church entirely from a single tree.
Wow.
I mean, that's incredible. It speaks to such a level of craftsmanship and dedication that's almost awe-inspiring.
It really is. And this theme of resourcefulness, of making do with what you have, it seems to have been passed down to Nigel's father, who even won an award for a crankshaft-powered circular saw. Can you imagine?
Really, that's pretty amazing.
Right.
Exactly. It's almost like this family legacy,
Yeah.
this ability to create and innovate, to solve problems with whatever materials are at hand. And it clearly influenced Nigel. From a young age, he was already driving tractors, folding tarpaulins, even welding.
Yeah, it's like he was being groomed for a life of practical problem solving. But then alongside this really practical, hands-on upbringing, there's this other really powerful force at play, the strictness of his Seventh-day Adventist upbringing.
Right. And that creates such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Because for those unfamiliar with the Seventh-day Adventist faith, it emphasizes a really strict observance of the Sabbath. And there are dietary restrictions. And there's a really strong focus on preparing for the second coming of Christ. So you have this young Nigel immersed in this world of practicality and hard work, but also bound by these very specific religious expectations.
It's like he's being pulled in two different directions, the
Yes.
comfort and security of tradition versus this growing yearning for personal freedom.
Yeah,
But this tension is kind of amplified by his mother's devout faith and really strict discipline, which he contrasts with sense of resentment toward his sick younger brother who required so much attention.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's like all these factors are contributing to this inner rebellion, like this growing sense that he needs to break free from all of the confines of his world. And this tension just builds and builds and builds until it reaches this breaking point when he decides to leave home at just 15 years old.
Yeah, and it's not just that he leaves, it's the way that he leaves. Like, after a final confrontation with his mother, she actually drives him to the highway.
Wow. Talk about a symbolic severing of ties.
It's like this really powerful image, isn't it? A mother bound by her faith and her own limitations. She recognizes that she can't hold her son back anymore from his desire for something more.
It is.
And it's this image that propels us into the next chapter of his life, where he exchanges the quiet rural landscapes of Tasmania
Yeah.
for the really bustling, chaotic heart of Sydney.
Yeah.
And that transition is anything but smooth. He arrives in Sydney with this kind of naive optimism, this belief that the world is his oyster. And, well, that naivety makes him vulnerable to those who would take advantage of him.
Exactly. And that's where we see those consequences of seeking freedom without the tools or guidance to really navigate all the complexities of the world. And he ends up being taken in by this older man. And this experience really deeply affects him. And it leads him down a path of alcohol abuse and these internal struggles.
It's a harsh lesson.
Yeah.
And one that many young people seeking escape and belonging unfortunately experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And from there, we see him bouncing from job to job, trying to find his footing in this new world.
Right.
Freight sorting, chef work, selling hi-fi equipment. Like, he's constantly adapting, learning new skills, trying to figure out who he is and what he wants to do.
And yet, even in this really chaotic period, you can see that inherent resourcefulness we were talking about earlier kind of shining through. It's no longer about farming or building things with his hands, but it's about navigating, like, the social landscape, the job market, all the realities of city life.
Yeah. And he's clearly a very observant person. He talks about seeing a small hi-fi shop owner become a multimillionaire.
Right.
And it plants these seeds of ambition within him. It's like he's studying the world around him, trying to decipher this code of success.
I see. And that fascination with financial success, I think, is very understandable, especially given his background, where, resources were often very scarce. It's a common trap, though, isn't it? This allure of money and material wealth sometimes blinding us to other, maybe more important values.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a theme that will continue to play out as his story unfolds. Because eventually that ambition leads him to the very competitive world of car radios, where he experiences both, the thrill of success
Right.
and the crushing blow of failure.
It's such a classic example of those highs and lows of entrepreneurship, the, exhilaration of building something from nothing, followed by that potential for really devastating setbacks. And in Nigel's case, that setback comes in the form of a Supreme Court battle and the collapse of his business ventures, which ultimately leads to the breakdown of his family.
It's a heartbreaking turn of events, and one that forces him to confront the consequences of his choices and the price that he's paid for this relentless pursuit of success. But even in this moment of failure, we see glimpses of that core resilience that we've been talking about. He chooses to personally address his creditors, taking responsibility despite his recklessness.
It's a sign that even though he's made mistakes, even though he's been knocked down, he's not willing to give up. He's still fighting. He's still searching for a way to rebuild his life.
Yeah, and that's what makes his story so compelling. It's not just this linear journey from point A to point B. It's this series of twists and turns and triumphs and setbacks, of moments that force him to confront his own limitations and ultimately to grow.
Yeah. And that growth is often messy, isn't it? It's about stumbling and falling, getting back up, and learning from all of those experiences, recognizing that sometimes the greatest lessons come from our failures, not our successes. And Nigel's story is such a testament to that very human process of learning and evolving and finding our way in a world that rarely goes according to plan. And this is where Nigel's story takes a turn, almost like ripped from a movie script. He ends up leaving Australia altogether.
Really?
Yeah, first for London and then California. And it all happens because of this new relationship with a woman whose family is very well off.
So it's like he's stepping into a whole new world,
Right.
one of privilege and opportunity.
Yeah.
Such a stark contrast to the struggles he faced in Sydney.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even in this new environment, surrounded by wealth and comfort, that entrepreneurial spirit we've been talking about just can't be contained.
I know, right? He doesn't just sit back and, enjoy the ride. He sees a gap in the market, a chance to create something totally unique.
Yeah.
Of course he goes for it.
So what does he do?
He launches a gourmet hot dog business, of all things.
Gourmet hot dogs.
Yeah, that's great.
And not just any hot dog business. He comes up with this whole elaborate theme based on, get this, dog breeds.
Okay, I'm listening.
So like the Great Dane with mustard, cheese, and steak sauce.
Oh, wow.
The Poodle with French mustard and mayonnaise.
Okay.
And even a Labrador with this sweet mango relish.
It's amazing.
It's brilliant. He takes a simple, familiar food and elevates it, gives it this quirky and memorable twist.
I love it.
And that creativity and that ability to think outside the box is something we've seen throughout his whole journey, right?
Yeah, he's always been a master of reinvention, hasn't he? Whether it's like repurposing furniture from a strip club for his coffee shop,
Right.
or turning a childhood fascination with welding into a successful business venture. I mean,
Yeah.
he has this knack for finding these unexpected solutions and turning them into something profitable.
He does, and that's a valuable skill in any context, really.
It is. That ability to adapt. to see possibilities where others just see obstacles.
Exactly.
And in this case, it leads to a period of genuine success.
It does. So tell me about it.
He's got, like, hot dog eating contests, and newspaper articles are singing his praises. I mean, the whole shebang.
That's fantastic. But, as we've seen before, success often comes with its own set of challenges, like the long hours and the constant hustle, the pressure to, maintain that upward trajectory.
It's true.
It all takes a toll.
Yeah.
And in this case, it strains his relationship, which eventually falls apart.
It's a recurring theme in his life, isn't it? This struggle to balance personal ambition with the, demands of meaningful relationships.
Heavy.
It's almost as if he throws himself so fully into his ventures that there's just no room left for anything else.
Yeah. And after the breakup, he makes the decision to return to Sydney, driven by this desire to be closer to his children from his previous marriage. So it's like he's coming full circle, returning to the city where he experienced so much, but now with a different perspective, maybe a newfound appreciation for the importance of family.
And it's not just about being geographically closer. It's about actively choosing to prioritize his role as a father.
Yeah.
He brings that hot dog business with him, determined to make it work, while also being present in his children's lives.
So how does he do it? I mean, how does he make it work?
Well, he does it in classic Nigel fashion.
How bad?
He finds this, dingy old pub room,
Okay.
throws a power cable out the window to power his hot dog cart,
Whoa.
and just starts selling.
Oh, that's great.
No fancy storefront, no elaborate marketing campaign, just pure hustle and a really, really good product.
So does it work?
Of course it works. People are lining up for his hot dogs until 4 for Sarah in the morning.
Well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to admire his tenacity. He doesn't let setbacks define him. He picks himself up, dusts himself off, and he just finds a way to make things work, even if it means starting from scratch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lesson I think we can all take away from his story.
I agree.
Life is full of unexpected twists and turns.
It really is.
And there will be times when we're knocked down, when our plans fall apart, when we just feel like giving up. But it's in those moments that our true character is really revealed. Do we just wallow in self-pity, or do we find a way to adapt and innovate and keep moving forward?
Right. And Nigel's story is a testament to the power of resilience.
It is.
That belief in oneself,
Yeah.
even when the world seems to be conspiring against you. But it's also this story about the importance of balance, right?
Yeah.
He's starting to realize that success isn't just about financial gain. It's about finding fulfillment in multiple areas of life.
He's learning that neglecting relationships, personal well-being, even spiritual grounding, it can lead to this sense of emptiness, even when you're surrounded by all this material success.
Exactly.
And that realization leads him to make another bold decision, one that'll take him even further outside of his comfort zone. He decides he needs a custom-built hot dog cart, one that can go anywhere, one that can be, the foundation for a truly mobile empire.
Okay.
And where does he go to get it built?
I don't know. Where?
Shanghai.
Shanghai.
Yes.
Wow, his life is one big adventure, isn't it? He goes from selling hot dogs out of a dingy pub room to navigating the complexities of, Chinese manufacturing. It's almost hard to keep up.
I know, right? But that's Nigel in a nutshell. Always pushing boundaries, always seeking new challenges.
It's incredible.
And this trip to China, it's a testament to his fearlessness.
It is.
His willingness to dive headfirst into the unknown.
He doesn't even speak the language.
Yeah. He doesn't. He's unfamiliar with the culture. But, he's armed with determination and that trusty Google Translate app.
And it's not just a quick trip to place an order, is it?
No, it isn't. He ends up finding himself, managing the entire factory.
Wow.
He's drawn into this whirlwind of entrepreneurship on a global scale.
Yeah.
And his world is expanding exponentially with each new experience.
It's amazing. It's fascinating to see how he navigates these uncharted waters.
Yeah, man.
He relies on his intuition and his ability to connect with people on a human level, even when there are language barriers. He's learning on the fly, adapting to new situations, and proving that resourcefulness isn't just about, practical skills, but about a mindset, a willingness to embrace the unknown and figure things out as you go.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not just about building hot dog carts anymore, is it?
No, it isn't. He ends up setting up a company in Hong Kong.
Wow.
Creates a Chinese URL address, and he starts trading internationally. It's he's building this multinational business empire.
Wow. That's amazing.
All stemming from this passion for hot dogs.
It's a remarkable achievement, especially considering where he started.
I know, right?
I mean, from that small Tasmanian farm
Mm-hmm.
to managing a factory in China and running a business across multiple countries. It's a testament to the power of vision, hard work, and a willingness to take risks.
It really is.
But, as we've seen time and time again, those risks often come at a price.
They do.
The demands of managing this sprawling enterprise and the constant travel between Australia, China, Thailand for visa runs, and all the pressure of financing and production.
Oh, yeah.
It starts to take its toll, both physically and mentally.
It's like he's caught in this cycle of achievement and burnout, constantly pushing himself to the limit and sacrificing his own well-being in this pursuit of success. And eventually that relentless pace starts to catch up with him.
Yeah, he must just be exhausted.
He is. He's exhausted. He's missing out on all these important moments with his family back in Australia. And he's starting to question if this constant striving is truly worth the cost.
And it all comes to a head when he experiences this complete collapse, physically and emotionally. It's like his body and his mind are finally forcing him to slow down, to reevaluate what's important, to acknowledge that something needs to change.
Yeah, this breakdown is like a crucial turning point in his story.
It is.
It's a moment of reckoning,
Right.
where he's forced to confront the consequences of his relentless ambition. And he's realizing that neglecting his health, his relationships, his own inner peace, it's left him feeling empty, even amidst all this outward success.
Yeah. So what does he do?
Well, he makes a decision to return to his apartment in Sydney.
Does he?
He does.
Yeah.
He shuts himself off from the world, and he tries to seek solace in silence. It's like he's retreating from all the noise and chaos of his life, and he's trying to reconnect with himself to figure out what truly matters.
That's a brave decision, isn't it? To step away from all the hustle, to confront all of those inner demons, and acknowledge that sometimes the greatest journey is the one that we take inward.
It is. And it's in this period of introspection that he starts to lay the groundwork for a new chapter. One that will be defined not just by his external achievements,
Right.
but by a much deeper sense of purpose and an alignment with his values. He comes out of this period of introspection with this renewed sense of purpose, realizing that his journey isn't over, it's just evolving, like the silence and the stillness. It allowed him to hear this different kind of call, one that wasn't about conquering the world, but, about finding the sustainable rhythm for himself within it.
Yeah. And that rhythm leads him back to what he knows best. Hot dogs.
Of course.
But this time, it's different. There's a shift in his approach.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, he's got his son Benjamin by his side now.
Oh, how wonderful.
Kind of.
Oh.
The chip off the old block.
Yeah.
Who shares his passion for the business.
Ah, that's beautiful.
It is. It's this beautiful evolution.
Yeah.
The lone wolf entrepreneur now embracing collaboration.
Yeah.
Sharing this, hard-won knowledge
Yeah.
with the next generation.
Yeah. And there's this sense of harmony here that we haven't really seen before in his story. He's finding that sweet spot between ambition and connection.
He is.
Allowing him to, enjoy the fruits of his labor without sacrificing his well-being or his relationship.
Yeah, exactly. They launch a new website. They showcase these unique stainless steel hot dog carts that were born from Nigel's global adventures and, refined through years of experience. They're catering corporate events. They're making a good living. And most importantly, they're doing it together.
I love that.
But as we know, life rarely follows a straight path.
Right.
Just as things are going smoothly, the world throws them another curveball, COVID-19.
Oh, no.
The pandemic hits.
Yeah.
And all the corporate events, the lifeblood of their business, they dry up overnight.
Oh, that's just devastating, especially after all the work they've put into, rebuilding their lives and their business. It would be completely understandable if he just, fell back into those old patterns,
I know.
Despair,
Yeah.
self-blame.
Yeah. But instead of giving into those impulses, he does what he's always done.
Yeah.
He adapts.
He does. What does he do?
He signs up for Airtasker.
Airtasker.
Yeah, that app that connects people who need odd jobs done with those who are willing to do them.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And, this is where we really see his resilience in full force.
Hmm.
He doesn't see this as a step back.
He doesn't.
He sees it as an
Oh,
opportunity
that's great.
to leverage his diverse skills.
I see.
He's not just a hot dog entrepreneur anymore. He's a problem solver,
Yeah.
a jack of all trades, ready to tackle any challenge.
That's awesome.
And it's not just about making ends meet. It's about proving to himself and his son that they can weather any storm.
Right.
And within a year, they've racked up 2,500 five-star reviews on Airtasker.
Wow. That's incredible. That's not just luck. I mean, that's a testament to, his work ethic and attention to detail, his commitment to delivering quality, no matter the task.
Exactly. It reminds me of that coffee shop he started. Using that repurposed furniture from a strip club,
Right.
he takes what's available, what others might overlook,
Yeah.
and turns it into something really successful. It's like a pattern throughout his whole life, isn't it?
It really is. It's about seeing that potential where others see limitations and understanding that success isn't always linear.
Right.
Sometimes detours lead to these unexpected destinations.
Exactly. And through it all, he's kind of rediscovering the importance of faith and family. He talked about reconnecting with his spiritual side,
Yeah.
and finding solace in those early lessons about hard work and perseverance that were instilled in him during his childhood.
It's like he's integrating all these seemingly disparate parts of his life
Right.
and finding the sense of wholeness. That goes beyond, material success or external validation.
And now he's turned his attention to a new venture, podcasting.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. He's built this studio called Studio 64 Podcast, and he's even developing his own media and AI toolbox.
That's so cool.
He's aiming to share his story and his insights, maybe even help others escape the quote-unquote drudgery of everyday life.
He's come full circle, hasn't he?
He has.
From a young boy sharing stories with his grandmother on that Tasmanian farm to this seasoned entrepreneur sharing his experiences with the world.
So what can we take away from Nigel's journey? It's this reminder that life is a tapestry of experiences woven together through resilience and adaptation and this relentless pursuit of meaning. It's about embracing the detours, finding value in the unexpected, and recognizing that true success isn't a destination, but this constant evolution.
It really is. And Nigel's story is an invitation to reflect on our own journeys, to acknowledge our own resilience, and embrace this, messy, unpredictable beauty of life.
Yeah, it is. It's a reminder that we all have a story to tell.
Right.
A unique set of experiences that has shaped who we are. And that by sharing those stories and connecting with others, we can find inspiration and guidance and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
That's a beautiful thought.
Well, if you're interested in learning more about Nigel's journey, be sure to check out his podcasts, Studio 64 and Nigel's Notes. You'll hear his story in his own words, and you might even find some nuggets of wisdom to apply to your own life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary life of Nigel.